I'm not a fan of it. I probably won't get vaccinated until we got more facts and all that type of stuff. But no, I'm not a fan of it at all.
What is your hesitation with getting the vaccine, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I mean, I haven't caught COVID yet, so I don't see me treating COVID until I actually get COVID. I want everybody to be vaccinated to move more freely around the facility and around as with traveling and all that type of stuff. But I mean, everybody has their own beliefs and they're entitled to their own decision.
I haven't been vaccinated yet. There's a ton of different things that go into it. I'm going to evaluate that on my own and, make the best decision that I feel like is, again, the best for myself.
Every time I hear that, Myles, my first thought is, what have you evaluated? Why haven't you fully evaluated it yet? This is an issue that's been around for months now. What information have you relied upon? What are the pros? What are the cons? Do you have a sheet like when Walter White was deciding whether or not he was going to kill the guy in his basement, or I think it was in Jesse's basement? Do you have the pros and the cons that you've put on a legal pad? Have you really done the work, or is this just your way of running out the clock, changing the subject, and you'd rather say, I'm evaluating things instead of, I ain't getting that shot. I don't intend to get it. I'm not going to get it. And when I do evaluate it, I am going to lock on to anything I can find that tells me I shouldn't get it.
Well, I mean, you get Montez Sweat saying, I need to find out more information and facts, in the same breath that he's saying, I don't like the fact that they brought in an expert on this to inform me of what the facts are. I don't understand that. I really don't. I'll never understand it. I understand that people are entitled to make their own decisions, and good for them. But at this point, if you don't want the shot, own it. Stop saying I'm still evaluating. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I need to do more research. Everybody in this country has been eligible to receive a vaccine for a month now, at least. Okay? It's free. You can walk into your local Walgreens, Duane Reade, Rite Aid, whatever it is, and get a shot. You can do it at the grocery store. I've been in the grocery store lately where they literally said over the loudspeaker, if you're in the store and you would like to have a COVID vaccine, the Johnson & Johnson and Pfizer shots are available at the pharmacy. Okay? If you're not going to do it, you're not going to do it. But own that. And stop saying that you're evaluating these things, because you're obviously not. Because if you were, then you wouldn't still say you're evaluating it. Because there's been so much information that is readily available to you, and teams are providing it for you. So I don't want to hear anymore, I'm evaluating. Just say you're not going to get it and own it.
If you're Sam Darnold, starting quarterback of the Carolina Panthers, you have access to team doctors, league doctors, union doctors, and you could contact the guy who writes the checks, the guy who has been ridiculously successful, the guy who has billions and surely has access to top epidemiologists who would be able to get on the phone, have a conversation with Sam Darnold, answer his questions, put his mind at ease if Sam Darnold really wants that. He doesn't. And this is where it gets very delicate for coaches and others in an organization. We've seen two different approaches, generally. You've got the coaches who are being coaches, like Bruce Arians. He was asked about bringing in a specialist yesterday on the vaccine. He said, I'm the specialist. I don't see any reason to not get vaccinated. And Bruce Arians isn't going to hesitate to go into the locker room and say to the guys, get your vaccine. Then you've got Matt Rule, the coach of the Panthers, who says, I don't tell anyone what to do. Matt Rule understands that this can create division in the locker room. Matt Rule understands this can create resentment. You got Ron Rivera bringing in a vaccine expert, and you got Montez Sweat saying publicly, I'm not a fan of that. Not a fan of the vaccine. He's not a fan of bringing in the expert. So this is a tough and delicate situation for coaches. And I think part of what they're hoping guys will do is that as they realize on their own the benefits of being vaccinated, what it means to be vaccinated versus what it means to not be vaccinated, then they'll choose to get vaccinated. Whether it's not having to wear a mask, whether it's being able to leave town during the bye week, something Peter King pointed out a couple of weeks ago in Football Morning in America, or whether it's the simple reality. And Myles, there's a good chance that the vast majority of guys who haven't gotten vaccinated yet, who say they're gathering information, there's a good chance they have yet to connect the dots from not getting vaccinated to the possibility of finding out on a Saturday night you can't play tomorrow because you tested positive today because you're not vaccinated. And it happened this weekend. Guy got yanked off the course leading in a tournament that paid out $1.7 million to the winner. He was leading far and away. It was his. And he was told, you're out, you're done, you tested positive. And I don't know how closely guys who are in the bubble follow those things, but I think they're going to start to realize it. And the problem is, if you wait until the season's already started and guys start missing games who aren't vaccinated because they test positive, it's going to take time to get yourself fully vaccinated where you've avoided that risk. But I think you're going to have some regret from some of these guys because you look at what they'll do to get on the field, the things they'll take to get on the field. The vaccination ensures that you're going to be on the field. And I just don't know that many guys have figured that out yet.
I don't know why they haven't figured it out yet, Mike. I don't know why. I don't know. And I guess this just stems from what's going on with my life and whatever it is.
They plug their ears and they're not listening.
I guess so. But like, what have you been doing for the last, year plus, almost year and a half that we've been going through this? Don't you want to stop going through this? The way to stop going through this is to get the vaccine. There are millions and millions, maybe billions of people around the world who would love to have the same access to this vaccine that we have as a country. Literally, like I said, you can go to any drugstore you want and just get a shot. And people won't do it. And I don't understand it in general in life. I certainly don't understand it in the NFL. I don't get it. And I guess that's just me. But I'm never going to get it. I mean, the second I could get a shot, I wanted that thing in my arm and I got it because I'm tired of this. I'm very, very grateful I was able to do that, especially as soon as I was able to, because I was living in Ohio. But man, I look at this and Mike, I just don't get it and I'll never get it.
I made the argument yesterday that guys who aren't vaccinated, who land on the COVID-19 reserve list this year, should not be paid. Last year, hey, anyone can get it anywhere, any place, anytime. There's no vaccine, no harm, no foul. If you're on the COVID-19 reserve list, you still get your game check. This year, the vaccine's available. The facilities are generally safer than the rest of the community, given the steps taken and given the urging to get guys vaccinated. If you're not vaccinated and you can't play because of it, you don't get paid. Now, D. Smith told reporters yesterday, players will get paid if they're not vaccinated and can't play due to COVID-19, and players can't be cut due to not being vaccinated. And we've heard that time and again. The league hasn't pushed for the permission to factor in vaccination status in deciding whether or not to keep guys. But you know what? Here's a reality, and I think the union knows this, Myles. It's going to be a factor. And coaches and general managers, having learned from the example set by Brandon Beane of the Bills, who said the quiet thing out loud a few weeks back, they're not going to have a paper trail. They're not going to say it. They're going to know who's vaccinated and who isn't. You can't hide that. Guys wearing masks aren't vaccinated. Guys not wearing masks are vaccinated. They're going to have that information. And Montez Sweat and Sam Darnold don't have to worry about it. But you know who has to worry about it? Anyone whose spot on the roster is not carved into stone. Any of those other guys. Beyond the first 25. I'd say once you get beyond the first 25 players on the roster, you're in jeopardy. Well, you know what? If you're not vaccinated, you're in greater jeopardy. And you could say, oh, they can't do that. Well, you know what? They're going to do it. And you ain't going to be able to prove that they did it because at the end of the day, it's going to be a coaching decision. And the union rarely tries to poke through coaching decisions. Now, maybe they'll try to fight a few of these. Maybe somebody will say something they shouldn't have said. Maybe Bruce Arians will go too far in being candid about his views. But it's not going to stop these teams from considering that. And why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? I got two guys who are relatively equal in skill. One guy's vaccinated. One guy isn't. Hell yes, I'm keeping the guy who's vaccinated. And the players need to realize that.
because that guy's going to allow you to move freely about the facility better. He's going to allow you to travel a little bit easier. He's going to be able to do everything he needs to do easier. Whether it's going out on the weekend, going out to dinner, on the bye week, as you were saying earlier, like Peter King pointed out, you get to travel and go where you want because you've gotten this shot. It's a competitive advantage as well. And that's the stuff we were starting to see on these coaching staffs, right? Where they're talking about, well, is the coaching staff vaccinated or not? If you're not vaccinated, then you can't be in the same room as the rest of your players. And that's a competitive disadvantage at that point. So you have to do everything you can in order to win, right? Like that's what these coaches are usually about. And so at this point, is getting vaccinated or not getting vaccinated, it at some point becomes a competitive advantage if you do. And if you don't, it's a competitive disadvantage, whether you're a coach or whether you're a player. And they basically have made it around the league so that people, the support staffs and everybody, those guys have to be vaccinated because otherwise you're not going to be around the players. So like I said, I don't really understand not getting vaccinated in the first place, but maybe if they're explained to in this way where it's, yes, this helps us win, maybe that will help people understand that this is something that we need to do as a society, not just as an NFL team, because it's a public health crisis.
The most common justification given for everything a football team does is that it was in the best interest of the team. It is in the best interest of the team to have as many players vaccinated as possible. It is in the best interest of the team to weed out the guys who aren't vaccinated, all things equal. You got a superstar, you're not going to cut him. Josh Allen doesn't have to worry about being cut if he doesn't get the vaccination. Anybody who isn't Josh Allen, you better be damn sure that you're going to be safe. You better talk to your agent. You better have an objective 30,000-foot assessment of your career because you may get a surprise come August 31, and you may be on the outside looking in, and it may trace back to you not being vaccinated, especially if there's a chance that, the coach has enough to worry about on Saturday night. The last thing the coach wants to worry about on Saturday night this year is getting the email from the lab saying this player, they're out for tomorrow because they tested positive and they're not vaccinated. So guys need to understand that. If you want to enhance your chances of making your salary this year, you get vaccinated. And you think about all the crap you've taken over the years to play football, whether it's on the approved list or not. How much research have you done? How much research did you do into Toradol before you took that shot for the first time? Or was the only research necessary, will this make it stop hurting? Yes. Okay, give it to me. Oh, you know what? There's a chance this may cause long-term kidney. I don't care. Give it to me. So I think once guys realize it's going to be an impediment to their careers, and the problem is the teams can't say it. they can just put out the breadcrumbs and hope that they figure it out on their own.
Yeah, well, production equals tolerance, right? The more productive you are, the more tolerant the team is going to be of any crap you pull that, distracts from what it is that we're doing or, makes it so that it makes us maybe a little bit harder for us to win. So, like you said, Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, those guys are quarterbacks. Montez Sweat, he's a good defensive player. Right, like these are players that probably don't have to worry about, I'm not going to get vaccinated, so I'm in jeopardy because of that. Like, no, not those guys, but like your run-of-the-mill guys.
Everyone else.
Yeah, well, like you're 40 to 53 on the roster. Yeah, like it's going to be something you worry about because it's almost like what we were talking about with, the off-season program, right? And it's voluntary, and we know it's voluntary in some ways for some people. If you're going to stay away, then some rookie is going to come in and take your job. It's the same sort of situation. And I guess maybe that's how we have to explain it to people, Mike, because I just, obviously, from a global standpoint that we are in this country, like telling people, like, if you get the shot, it's good for you and it's good for society. That's not working. The levels have dropped off of people getting their vaccines. So I don't know how we have to explain it to people that makes it seem like it's good for you individually, but maybe that would help.
One last example before we take a break, especially this year with the salary cap being $25 million lower per team than it would have been but for the pandemic. You got a veteran who's making $7 million this year who not only hasn't been vaccinated, but is a vocal force in the locker room against it. He's on one hand. On the other hand, you got an undrafted rookie making $700,000. He's been vaccinated. He's looked pretty good. You know, how the coach processes assessment of performance, how much he'll trust a guy, it could be influenced by that. So I got a guy who not only has refused to be vaccinated, but he makes $7 million. I need that cap space. He's a disruptive force when it comes to what I'm trying to get guys to do. He's going to get a surprise on August 31. I don't know of anyone specific who falls into that category, but it's just an example of how it can go. That's the kind of research that the players should be doing. You're not really doing the research about the vaccine. You should be doing the research about how the team is going to deal with this issue.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.